Imagine a timeout. All right, guys, we got a bleep, bleep, bleep. And at that point, I don't even know if we're running a play or just releasing stress. But here's where it actually gets interesting. There's a difference between just yelling and what they call functional swearing. Yeah, that's a real thing. Basically, it's when a coach drops a word to make something hit harder. Like instead of saying, get your hands up on defense, it's get your freaking hands up. Now, suddenly, everybody's paying attention.
We welcome everybody back. Our final topic is one that most of us can relate to. I think so anyway. And here's the question. Have you ever been cussed at? I mean, really cussed at? Maybe by a stranger or by a parent, maybe a spouse, a neighbor, your boss, or maybe you've been the one who was doing the cussing. Well, what about being cussed at by a coach? Does that change how you feel about this topic? Maybe not you, but maybe your kid. If he or she heard some tough language directed by their coach. Noah Shemami, sportscaster from Full Sail University, explores the topic of cussing versus functional swearing.
Do coaches need to stop cussing or is it part of the game? All right, I got to ask this question. How many F bombs do you think a college basketball coach drops in one practice? Seriously, are we talking 10, 50? Try hundreds. There are players out there that saying their coach drops F bombs like it's part of the playbook. So the big question now is all this cussing actually helping teams win or is it just extra noise? Because let's be real, some of these coaches sound like they're coaching and starring in a rated R movie at the same time. Like, imagine a timeout. All right, guys, we got a bleep, bleep, bleep. And at that point, I don't even know if we're running a play or just releasing stress. But here's where it actually gets interesting. There's a difference between just yelling and what they call functional swearing. Yeah, that's a real thing. Basically, it's when a coach drops a word to make something hit harder. Like instead of saying, get your hands up on defense, it's get your freaking hands up. Now, suddenly, everybody's paying attention. And honestly, we all do this. Like if you stub your toe, you're not calmly saying, oh, that was unfortunate. And that's what coaches are trying to tap into. Some players even say it fires them up, like it flips a switch. One player literally said it creates a burning fire inside him, which sounds intense, but it also kind of makes sense. But not everybody's into it. There are coaches out there who don't cuss at all, like zero. One coach literally replaces bad words with stuff like gosh darn it. I'm sorry, but if I mess up a play and my coach yells gosh darn it, I might laugh. Like imagine a game 7 energy. Come on, guys. Gosh darn it. We need better defense. I don't know if that's hitting the same. But here's the real thing it's not just about the words, it's about how players hear them. Because one player actually told his coach, hey, the cussing is messing with me. And the coach stopped completely, never did it again. And that's where this gets bigger than just sports because communication isn't one size fits all. What motivates one player might shut down another. Some players want that intensity, others, not so much. Some people need hype, others need confidence. So, honestly, there's no perfect answer. Some coaches win by yelling, some win by staying calm, some drop F bombs like it's punctuation. Others won't say a single one all season. But if your message isn't landing, it doesn't matter what words you use. So now I got to ask you if you're a player, do you want your coach yelling like that or keeping it clean? And if you're a coach, do those words actually help or hurt? Drop your take on Sportscaster because everybody's got an opinion on this one. For Sportscaster, I'm Noah Shemami.
That was Noah Shemami, sportscaster from Full Sail University. And obviously, motivational tactics differ at every school, and every coach is different. How do athletes react to different coaching techniques? We think about, let's say, like the Final Four, with college basketball season. You think about some of the greats, like Kelvin Sampson at University of Houston, genuine leader. Bill Self at Kansas. These guys aren't in the Final Four, but like Bill Self at Kansas, leader. Roy Williams, who's now retired from North Carolina. You heard Noah talking about how some coaches would say, gosh darn it, instead of using harsher language. Like Roy Williams used to always say "dab gummit," right? Part of that's because he's from the South, but "dab gummit." Can you still get your point across by talking like that? And then on the other end of the spectrum, like a Dan Hurley at UConn, somewhat maniacal on the sidelines, but certainly effective. The proof is in his record. Mick Cronin at UCLA, passionate, not afraid to get into his players. Tom Izzo, obviously, coaches with fire on the sidelines in East Lansing. Rick Pitino, an exceptional motivator. Dusty May at Michigan, you know what I mean? Like he differs vastly from the aforementioned names. Bobby Knight, if you go back, obviously that's a name that I think most people, it comes to mind when they say today's athletes, can't or won't be coached the same way they used to. Um, there was I've spoken to some athletes that grew up around that time that had an opportunity to go play for Coach Knight at Indiana that said, I didn't want to play for somebody like that. Right. And it's not just college basketball coaches, but, college football coaches, whatever. And then you take it back to the high school level, like at what point is it permissible to have a coach speak to, younger athletes, in a certain way, like, by cussing. I just think it's an interesting topic, to discuss. Like, when is it appropriate? High school level, college, obviously in the pros. I don't think you want your youth coaches out there, getting into your kids, trying to light them up with creative language like that. Even I know, like growing up, my dad, he used to cuss all the time. He's softened a little bit, the later in life that he's gotten, but there was something to it because, when you use certain adjectives before or after your main point, it was like, okay, I understand the message that he's trying to deliver, and you didn't necessarily take it personally. So it is different. Obviously, today's day and age, the athletes are a little bit different. I'm not going to say they're more coddled than they used to before, but I think, in light of now you have the opportunity, if you don't like something, you can transfer out and you say, well, this coach was too hard on me, I'm going to go over here. It's just an interesting topic. It was something I hadn't really, thought too much of, but, do coaches need to stop cussing, or is it part of the game? So we appreciate Noah Shemami for providing a little perspective on that. So I want to thank Noah. I want to thank all our guests, Aiden Novak from Rochester Christian University for his story, Ben Frakes from Michigan State, and also Brendan Mato from Notre Dame. We talk about, how the use of AI, in highlight reels is affecting high school sports, and high school athletes as they look to take this step to the next level. So covered a lot of ground this week. Hope you learned a little bit from it. And we hope you always do. We look forward to seeing you again next week here on Open Mic on WJR. And until then, Godspeed.